Good afternoon. It's 11 o'clock. I've been at this for an hour and a half. I've lost two videos for this piece, and I'm smiling out of pain. At any rate, I think the best part about it is that each time I do it, I guess I'll make it a shorter video. There are going to be 3 videos, I think, this week, maybe 2. This is the first one, and it's probably the most important one. This is about how we're going to work the alchemy simulation through to the end of the semester, which is December 13th. And so you need to know that, first of all. It answers Diana's question about last assignment. Diana, and this is for everyone, obviously, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in the next video. And we're not going to use the family assignment. We're going to use case study assignment. We're going to use the alchemy, this experience of alchemy that you've really kind of begun a couple of weeks ago, and now we're heading into full-fledged as we move through this into the end of the semester. All right, so I'm talking quickly because I want to make sure that I cut through some of the other things I'll say in any other places as such. Now, let's start with the most important issue I think it's the most important issue, is there is a simulation called ALCHEMY that I have coming out actually this summer. Full-blown, all-out simulation, role play, if you want to call it that, game, if you want to use that word, that will hit the presses will come out on the bookshelves or around online in the summer. It's called Alchemy. And let me just give you a quick backdrop to that. For those of you who don't know, and I'm pretty sure all of you do know, that alchemy is a kind of pseudoscience that men, I don't think it was women, I think women were too busy in the Middle Ages to do something like this. The life of a woman in the Middle Ages was not a pleasant thing for everything I've researched, where the men, took what we call base metals, the most famous one being lead, because lead is abundant and cheap. And not worth a lot of money, when they took what they call base metals and somehow melted them down or mixed them together. And in the end, what happened was that they would somehow transform into gold. Now, there's the key verb. The key verb is gold, because everybody wants to have gold. I just read an article this morning about a woman with a metal detector in Australia found a piece of gold that was 26 pounds, which is under the surface of the sand in Australia. Dug it up, and she sold it for $30,000. Okay, we could be no gold as worth millions of dollars. I can't even guess how much that's 26 pounds worth of gold is worth nowadays. But at any rate, what we're talking about is gold is valuable, lead is not. And the belief was from alchemists that they would be able to transform lead into gold if they just found the right combination. Alchemy is a simulation, a game, if you want to call it that. It's more than that, but it's a game. It's best understood that way if you don't know what it is. Think about a video game. It's a game, but it's a lot more complicated than a game. Certainly not Candyland. It's a game where people combine their skill sets to recreate something, to transform all the processes that we kind of drop into or on a school system or a building and expect magical change. When in fact, more often than not, it's doomed to failure because it's not sustainable, or because they haven't thought through all of the futures issues associated with it. And that's why we call it alchemy. And we're going through what I would call an alchemy light over the next couple of weeks, beginning from what I had begun to do a couple of weeks ago. And I don't just want to concentrate just on that in the weekly sessions. I want to talk about some other change theories as well, where you will contribute what you learned from those different skills I tried to teach you about possible, probable, preferable, future trend, information gathering, about futures wheels, about cross impact charts, and a new one we're going to get into today's scenario building. Those are all skill sets that people practice, believe it or not, in think tanks all around the world, in the government, in corporations, not so much in schools. He smiled sarcastically. And what we're going to do is try to create that for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally offer up, it's going to be in a module, but I'm also going to offer up this video and a case study that I think we've actually kind of played with it a few times before, a case study that challenges you to think about what your purpose is in this particular school that we're describing. A school that I suspect is kind of similar to a lot of your own circumstances these past couple of months, if not a long time before that. And in as much as this class, my gifted and talented class, is committed to training yourself to become leaders, not only of school systems and buildings and departments, but also of E&L issues and challenges that confront us all. And so that's what this is about. Now, forgive me for talking so quickly. I've said this the third time I've said these things, here's the process. I just posted a discussion question. Each of you will post an answer to the discussion question, one sentence, about what you think the purpose is after you have examined and considered the case study I'm about to read to you. But remember, you're in two different teams, the educational leadership team and the world out there team. Not only are you in two teams, but you've been given a role, R-O-L-E. For example, you could be a principal, or you could be the superintendent. You could be the economist demographer, or you could be the business person. I take it to the next place. You had a role within the role, and that was, I gave you muscles. I gave you specialties. For example, Kay, I think, is the business person in the world out there team. I'm not sure who her counterpart is in the ELT. And so I made her the expert on systems thinking. So she knows Senge as best she knows from the book and our conversations. And she's going to contribute her perspective about what she thinks the purpose should be based on her specialty. I don't remember who played the futurist in, I don't remember in a moment, who plays the assistant superintendent in the ELT team, but she is also the futurist. I think it's Elena. I may be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that. Or maybe it's Marlene. And or Gabriella. I think it's Gabriella. So not only is she the assistant superintendent in the ELT, but she's also the futurist, which means she's got to really go back and look at those videos more carefully and read the chapters in the book. So you're familiar with really infusing, embedding the skill sets and dispositions of a futurist in the statement that you're going to write. So let me back that up again. So each person, based on their specialty and team, writes a purpose. You post it. Now, ordinarily, you're expected to respond to someone else's post. Now, I'm restricting a little bit. If you're an ELT member, you only respond to the ELT colleagues. Okay? And vice versa, if you're the world out there team. Only respond to, so I guess you need to identify yourself before you do that. I am K, I am in the world out there team, I am the business person. So somebody in the other group doesn't respond to K. That's not what we want you to do. I want you to respond to each other's team, your team colleagues. Now, the team, ELT team's leader is the superintendent. The world out there team leader is the board president. You're responsible. I'll give you a little extra to do here to make sure that each person gets a sentence in. And then you're responsible for encouraging them to begin to squeeze down to one statement from the world out there team, one statement from the ELT team by Wednesday. You're not arguing with you're not at war. One team's not against the other team. It's not a football game. You just have two different perspectives, and we're trying to give a stage to both of those perspectives as such. Okay? It's not as easy as it sounds to do. Think this through. Now, I want to make it clear, I'm shouting. I don't expect you, I do not expect you to come up with a separate Zoom meeting for you for your team. Don't want that. It's not part of the course. Is that clear? All right. I do want you to talk to each other in discussions. That I expect. But I don't want you to call a special. I don't want the board president group person to call a Zoom meeting, because people are. This is an asynchronous class. People go left and right, and we don't have the right to expect them to say, "Okay, I'll meet you at Tuesday at 3 p.m." It's not going to work, and it's not correct to do. So please remember to do that. But I think you see where I'm taking you on this. Now, let's go back over who is who, just so we can remember that. Give me a minute. You had this in your module from last week. Presuming you looked at it and maybe did a little homework on this, but I didn't put a gun between your eye on it either, as such. Why can't life be simple? Why can't life be simple? It's not being simple for me. There we go. But I'm not sharing it, so that doesn't do you any good, does it? I'm going to go through this quickly just to remind you who's who. All right, so Nicholas, you are a member of the educational leadership team, and you are, oh boy, there's messages flying at me right and left. Nicholas, you're a member of the educational leadership team. You're the principal. You're the collaboration specialist. You write your purpose from that point of view. Rowan, you're the World Out There team board president. You're in charge of that group. And you're the culture guy person. So you write your purpose statement from the point of view of understanding how culture works. Diana is a member of the ELT, and you're the boss of that team. You're the superintendent. And again, your muscle is culture. Constantine, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, forgive me. You're the politician in the World Out There team, and you are the collaborative thinker. So you're going to write from the point of view of collaboration. Marlene is a member of the ELT, and she's the union president, and that makes her a systems thinker. She recognizes how all those disciplines, learning organization disciplines of mental models and team learning, have to be part of this conversation. Nicole belongs to the World Out There team. You're the Steve Jobs, but I'm not allowed to use that word. You're the creative guy. You're the other person who thinks creatively and want to get other people to think creatively. You're not going to settle for any old answer as such. You're looking for, here comes the phrase I hate, an out-of-the-box idea. Elena, you are the pupil personnel person. You're in charge of E&L programs, as well as special education and social services in that building. And so you think creatively, and you want that to happen, especially.
Is there something else I can help with?
No. Gabriella, you're the futurist in the World Out There team. You see the economy deteriorating. You see the community changing. You see different trends going on, particularly in demographics, and you're going to remind people about that as an obligation to address in the purposes. Noha is the assistant superintendent for in ELT, and you're the futurist. So you got to go back to those videos and make sure you understand how to do that, because we're going to count on you to come up with some futures ideas in that purpose. And last but not least is Kay, who is the business person, and you are the system specialist. You understand how those pieces need to be operating be operating full blast before you can just try
One sec.
Siri off. A lot of interruptions today before you go any further than that. Okay. So now that you know who you are and what you're responsible to do, okay, I'm going to come out of this. I'm going to stop the share. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to read to you and you're going to have this. You're going to have this, so not to worry. But I'm going to read this to you so you hear, everyone hears the same story. Okay. Here's the case study. I'm going to share it too so you can see it. As such. Okay, here we go. Look at the title, Building the Plane While It Is Flying at Mindset Elementary. All right. If you're trying to build a plane while you're trying to fly it at the same time, it's not going to work. All right. So go from that point. Here we are at Mindset Elementary, and look at what's happening in Mindset Elementary. And I like to read to people. Here it comes. Ms. Simpson, you have a call from district office on line 2. Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Before she answered the call, she wondered aloud, a phone call first thing on a Monday morning. Something is brewing. It was, good morning, Emily. Had a good weekend? Before she could respond, her superintendent, Dr. Carter, cut directly to the chase. We had a busy one here at Central. Many of us had to come to work with the news that we expected, but were not necessarily prepared for. Carter continued. The sudden influx of immigrants from Central America has gone beyond sudden. It has escalated dramatically. Banks could guess what was coming next. Yes, Dr. Carter, it certainly has been on everybody's mind. Carter was terse. It's one thing to have it on our mind and another to adapt to its rapid development. You can expect 17 children arriving at your front desk for placement in your school this morning. Now, before I go any further, I don't want to cast these 17 children as villains. Understand that. I'm casting the issue, the principle with an LE, that change is, the emerging future has emerged. It's hitting you right in the face. And now you have to figure out a way to recreate your future to make all the pieces work. Please understand that. Before Banks could respond, Carter added, Emily, yours is not the only school in the district that will have new groups of children on their doorstep. It's too pat to say, I feel your pain, although I certainly do. You and your fellow principals have my pledge, our pledge, to give you our best direction and support. You always do, Dr. Carter. What else is she supposed to say? Thank you, Emily, but make no mistake. This is no common challenge. The kinds I know you routinely solve. This time you'll have to draw on collective resolve. Here's that C word, collective resolve, and more importantly, futures thinking. To meet these new students' needs, those of the children who are already part of your school, and maybe as importantly, those of your staffs and your community, to recreate your plane while you're flying it. I will check in with you as often as possible. Carter hung up. Banks looked out the window. Okay, where do I begin? She thought about her relatively brief time here at Mindset Elementary. She had been so pleased to have this building as her first principalship and had recognized the challenges she, her staff, and the school community had begun to engage under her leadership. On the one hand, she thought, this large number of children arriving at our doorstep in a few minutes is just another test for us, one of many we routinely respond to. This one, though, is deeper than the others. The cross impact, remember that cross impact chart I taught you about last week? The cross impact of 17 children who cannot speak the language likely have varying levels of schooling, if any, needs an all hands on deck approach. I have immediate decisions, and we have long range decisions that need much thought. That requires a mixture of leadership on my part, but also requires everyone else's leadership to meet the purpose we all signed on to. She called to her secretary. Mrs. Smith, please come in. I will need you. Now, I suspect that Mrs. that Mr. Smith has been going to be told to call a faculty meeting, but maybe not. I don't know if a faculty meeting is a terribly creative way to approach this, unless you just want to get people all cued in at the same time about what to do. There you have it. Again, 2 more videos coming, but just so you understand again, I've already posted a discussion question, gives you the same directions I'm about to give you. You write a 1-sentence purpose based on the team that you're part of and who you are. Post it. When the rest of your colleagues post, and hopefully quickly, and that's up to the board president and to the superintendent to help that along, I suspect. What you're going to do then is respond to each other's idea within your team, only within your team, all right? And then by the end of the week, boil it down to 1 sentence. Now, it could be 1 sentence is so great that that's the one you pick. That's fine, okay? Or it might be that you need to take K's and Rowan's, and placid them together and take one phrase from here and one phrase from it. But you will have to agree. It's that consensus word. You'll have to collaborate and agree. If you're thinking about the Mayan proverb again, we're trying to agree to our purpose before we can solve anything. Enough said? Okay, 2 more videos coming. Not sure when I'm going to get them up, but hopefully before the day is over.